Hey everyone, so this next video here is going to be a really brief one. It is just another summary of everything we've just discussed about the functions of our skin. So these are all things we've already talked about, a little more detail here and there. First off is just skin as a barrier. So as we discussed, keratin is going to be located within the epidermis. And not only that, if you remember what we talked about, keratin is going to be important for toughening the skin and making sure it's impervious to water. Not only that, there's going to be desmosomes that are going to be connecting these cells together. This is, again, in order to make sure that your skin is a tough barrier so that nothing penetrates the skin, or very few things can penetrate the skin. So, that said, think about what your skin feels like on a day to day basis. It is dry, which is really important. Not only that, but it is slightly acidic, something we don't really think about. Also, very important. Why is that? Because if it's the opposite, moist and neutral or slightly basic, these could be favorable conditions for bacteria. We don't like that. So, skin is great that it is dry. It is great that it is slightly acidic because bacteria hate that and they do not want to grow on there. So, we are less likely to get microbial infections of any kind. Again, I'm not saying lotion's bad. I'm just saying it's slightly dry, right? It's not like we're walking in a perpetual state of perspiration here. That was annoying. It's not like you're constantly sweating, right? So that said, it is nice to have a slightly dry habitat. I love that. Habitat for any kind of microbes. Next up, as mentioned previously, because of the keratin, it is impervious to water and it is a barrier to some UV radiation. Again, it depends on your skin color, how much UV light can actually penetrate the skin. And that's, again, evolutionarily speaking, something that is a design based on where we lived in previously, way back in the day. So if you're living in an area where it is always sunny and you're always in the sun, your skin is likely going to be darker because you don't want too much UV light. You want some, but not too much. Whereas if you live in an area where it's always raining, always cold, you're never really outside, you're likely to have lighter skin because you're desperate for any opportunity in the sun you can to collect some of that UV light. Speaking of UV light, the UV radiation can penetrate into the dermis, which is super important. And because of that, it allows multiple reactions to occur within the body. This is going to help us create an active form of vitamin D, which is extremely important for a number of things, but one of the biggest ones is going to be for our immune system. So that said, UV light, very important for activating vitamin D. Lastly, cutaneous absorption, mentioned this earlier, about 1 to 2% of your oxygen that your body is able to bring into your body does come from your skin. So yes, gases can absorb into your skin at a low rate, but still something. Which also means that sometimes toxic compounds, as well as fat-soluble vitamins, can also absorb through the skin. So that said, that's awesome for oxygen. It's also awesome for any kind of patches we can use, nicotine patch, vitamin patch, whatever you need in your life at that given time. But it's also something to keep in mind if you are exposed to something that could absorb into your skin. A famous example of this is if you look back at like Alice in Wonderland. That's an example. If anyone's ever heard of the Mad Hatter, right? The Mad Hatter was a character created because of his top hat. Because back in the day, when top hats, I guess, first came out, don't quote my history here, but top hats were originally created using mercury because mercury was a liquid metal, so you could put it in the hat and make it a stiffening agent. I don't know if that's the right kind of word there, but the point is it made it stiff so that it was a top hat. It was straight up. Problem was mercury as a liquid could absorb into your skin. So mercury was absorbing into people's skins, right, through their head. And if you know anything about mercury poisoning, it's not good. And in a lot of cases, people would go mad, hence the term Mad Hatter. So anyways, not good. But there's a whole bunch of things that can absorb into your skin. Sensory roles, as we talked about, there are sensory or nerve endings within your skin. And then thermal regulation, this is, again, talking about homeostasis. Another example of regulating your body's temperature. So when you get cold, dermal blood vessels will constrict, trying to keep all the heat at your core. When you're hot, vessels will dilate. That's why you may see your blood vessels in your arm start to pop out when you're getting hot. Again, trying to radiate that heat out into the outside environment. Also, perspiration, sweating. So, with that said, that is your skin. If you have any questions on your skin, please let me know.